Welcome to The Passing of the Armies, our continuing weekly podcast series that explores the memoir written by Civil War General Joshua Chamberlain and released the year after his death in 1915. We hope you enjoy the series.
The Passing of the Armies. Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. Chapter 1. The Situation. It was a dreamy camp along the lines investing Petersburg in the winter following the All-Stimmer campaign of 1864, that never to be forgotten, most dismal of years, although shadowed at the very beginning by melancholy tokens of futile endeavor and grievous losses, consolidations of commands which obliterated the place and name of proud and beloved corps and divisions, flags made sacred by heroic service and sacrifice of noble manhood now folded away with tender reverence, or perhaps by special favor permitted to be borne beside those of new assignments, bearing the commanding presence of great memories, pledge and talisman of unswerving loyalty, though striking sorrow to every heart that knew their history. Yet this seemed not to make for weakness, but rather for settled strength. We started out full of faith and hope under the new dispensation, resolved at all events to be worthy of our past and place. Now all was over. The summer had passed, and the harvest was but of death. New and closer consolidations, more dreary obliterations, brought the survivors nearer together, for this dismal year had witnessed that ever-repeated, prolific miracle, the invisible, ethereal soul of man resisting and overcoming the material forces of nature, scorning the inductions of logic, reason, and experience, persisting in its purpose and identity, this elusive apparition between two worlds unknown, deemed by some to be but the chance product of intersecting vortices of atoms, and denied to be even a force, yet outfacing the solid facts of matter and time, defying disaster and dissolution, and, by a most real metempsychosis, transmitting its imperishable purpose to other hearts with the cumulative courage of immortal energies. Give but the regard of a glance to the baldest outline of what was offered and suffered, given and taken, lost and held in that year of tragedy. That long-drawn, tete-boissé, bull-headed, zigzag race from the Rapidan to the Appomattox, that desperate inchworm advance, along a front of fire, with writhing recoil at every touch, that reiterated dissolving view of death and resurrection. The wilderness, Spotsylvania. The North Anna, Cold Harbor, Petersburg, unspoken, unspeakable history. Call back that roseate May morning, all the springs of life athrill, that youthful army pressing the bridges of the Rapidan, flower of northern homes, thousands upon thousands, tested in valor, disciplined by experience, hearts swelling with manly courage, confident trust, and supreme devotion, to be plunged straightway into hell like horrors. The murderous maze where desperate instinct replaced impossible tactics, men mowing each other down, almost, at hand reach, invisible each to each, till the flaming muzzles cut lurid windows through the matted brush and bramble walls, and underneath the darkened woods low-lying cannon and bursting shells set the earth itself on fire, and wrapped in winding sheets of flame unnumbered thick-strewn bodies of dead and dying, never to be found or known on earth again. Then the rushing, forced flank movements known and overmatched by the ever-alert enemy, followed by reckless front attacks where highest valor was deepest loss, buffetings on bloody angles, butcherings in slaughter pens, all the way down to the fateful Chickahominy once more. A campaign under fire for 27 days and nights together, morning reports at last not called for, and when we asked explanation, our superiors answered, confidentially, lest it seem disloyal, because the country would not stand it, if they knew. What wonder that men who have passed through such things together, no matter on which side arrayed, should be wrought upon by that strange power of a common suffering which so divinely passes into the power of a common love. A similar fate befell the new hope kindled by Grant's sudden change to a new base of operations, a movement bold if not hazardous, being practically a change of front under fire for the whole army on a grand scale, skillfully withdrawing from the enemy's front by secret orders and forced marches, swiftly crossing the James River on transports and pontoons, hurrying forward to strike a surprise on weakly defended Petersburg, and thus cut Lee's main communications and turn his entire position, seemed good generalship. But the bold plan and generous following, stultified by confusion of understandings and supine delays of subordinates, brought all to naught once more with terrible recoil and reckoning. Then the long, slow fever of profitless minor action and wasteful inaction, with the strange anomaly of a mutual siege, crouching in trenches, skulking under bomb-proofs and covered ways, lining parapets where to show a head was to lure a bullet, picketing a crowded hostile front where the only tenure of life was the tacit understanding of a common humanity, perpetual harassing by spasmodic raid or futile dash, slow creepings, flankward yet never nearer the main objective. Such was the wearisome, wearing experience month after month, the new year bringing no sign nor hope that anything better could be done on that line than had been so dearly and vainly tried before. The resultant mood of such a front was not relieved by what reached us from the rear. The long suffering and helpless grief of homes, the sore-tried faith and patience of the whole North almost faltering, recruiting disenchanted, supplemented by enormous bounties, and finally by draft and conscription. Newspapers jeering at the impotence of the army, self-seeking politicians at the Capitol plotting against the President, hosts of spoilsmen at all points seizing advantage of the country's distress, enriching themselves out of the generous, hard-earned offerings to meet her needs and repair her losses, cabal and favoritism in places of power, perpetrating 1,000 injustices upon officers and soldiers in the field. Through all this, seen and known and felt from first to last, these men of the Army of the Potomac, godlike, if something short of sainthood, this army, on which the heaviest brunt had fallen and was to fall, held up its heart where it could not hold up its head. With loyalty unswerving, obedience unquestioning, courage that asks not cheer, and devotion outvying all that life holds dearest or death most terrible. This army, but what army? Is this identity a thing of substance or spirit, or of name only? Is this the army which bright as its colors thronged the bridges of the Rapidan on that May morning less than a year before, and vanished into the murk of the wilderness? Or is it scarcely the half of them, stern-faced by realities, saddened and perchance also strengthened by visions of the lost, the places of these filled by fresh youth's vicarious offering, united as one by the comradeship of arms, and strong with the contagion of soul? But perhaps this vein of emotion is tiresome. Let us seek relief in figures, which some people regard as the only reliable facts. The number of men of all arms present for duty equipped in the Army of the Potomac at the opening of Grant's campaign, as shown by the consolidated morning reports of May 4th, 1864, was 97,162. In the annual report of Secretary Stanton, November 22nd, 1865, this total is stated as 120,384. He evidently takes the number as borne upon the rolls in his office, which by no means always agrees with the field lists of those present for duty equipped, the absent on leave or detail, or otherwise, being usually at a high percentage of the total. The careful compilation of Adjutant General Drum, made from official field returns at this time gives the number present for duty equipped at 97,273, in remarkable agreement with the figures taken in the field. The number of men available for battle in the 5th Corps at the start was 25,695. The character of the fighting in this campaign may be shown, however dimly, by citing here the report of our Corps Field Hospital for one day only, that of the engagement at Laurel Hill, May 8, 1864. Admitted to hospital 3,001, of whom 106 were from other corps. 27 Confederates, 107 sick. Sent to the rear, 2,388. Fell into the hands of the enemy, 391. Died in hospital, 121. Left 206, of whom 126 were able to walk in the morning. Or take the totals treated in the field hospital alone for the first 9 days of the campaign. Number admitted 5257, sent to the rear 4,090, died in hospital 179, fell into hands of the enemy 787. Adding to this the number killed outright, not less than 1,200, and the missing, a list we do not like to analyze, not less than 1,555, makes a total loss in the Corps of more than 7,000 men. And the casualties of the 6 weeks from the Rapidan to the James bring the total to 16,245. This is 3398, more than half the present for duty at the start. The records of the medical inspector of the 5th Corps show the number admitted to the field hospitals alone from May 5th to June 19th to have been 11,105 of the Corps, besides many from other corps and not a few Confederates. Reckoning the killed outright as 2,200 and the missing as 4,000, which is quite within the fact, makes a total of casualties for this period 17,305. Taking another source of information, we find in the Adjutant General's report of losses in the Corps, as given in the official returns of regiments for the same period, the killed as 1,670, the wounded 10,150, the missing 4,416, a total of 16,235. Taking the additional wounded given in the field hospital records, 955, who would not appear on the regimental morning reports, we reach the total of 17,190. The difference in these figures is remarkably slight, considering that they come from sources so distinct, and the restless, fruitless fighting before Petersburg during the remainder of that year brought the total loss in the Corps up to 18,000, this being almost 1,000 more than 2/3 of the bright faces that crossed the Rapidan in the starlight of that May morning, now gone down to earth, or beneath it. And yet, no end. Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the series. Be sure to be with us for our next installment. I'm Robert Child, and this has been The Passing of the Armies, only on Point of the Spear.
Music licensed from audioblocks.com. Point of the Spear is produced by RSC Media Group.